Hello, and welcome to Baltic Ways. I'm your co-host, Ben Gardner-Gill. This week, we're bringing you a bonus episode, courtesy of our colleagues at the EUROPAST Project, an international public history consortium led by Vilnius University. This episode of the EUROPAST Podcast is entitled Destigmatizing the Roma, the most forgotten community in Lithuania. It features an interview with Agnieška Avin, a PhD candidate at the Institute of Sociology at the Lithuanian Centre for Social Sciences. She is also an activist for Roma integration and a 2022 recipient of the AABS Baumanas Grant for creative projects in Baltic studies. Please enjoy.
Hello, and welcome to the EUROPAST Podcast. This podcast is part of the international project EUROPAST, funded from the Horizon Europe Widera program. EUROPAST tackles contemporary issues in memory studies, memory politics, political discourse, and most importantly, public history, a field of study and practice that explores the ways in which the production of knowledge about history can be rendered more democratic, open, collaborative, and empowering, as well as the challenges associated with this process. In this podcast, members of the project team talk to public history practitioners, researchers, historians, activists, filmmakers, and many others about the developments, challenges, and implications of this fascinating approach of dealing with the past. If you would like to know more about the project, follow EUROPAST on Facebook and Twitter. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. My name is Rūta Vyšniauskaitė. I am the EUROPAST project administrator and the junior researcher here at the Institute of International Relations and Political Science at Vilnius University. Me and my colleague Ignė Rasickaitė, a fellow junior researcher in the project, will be talking to Agnieška Avin today, who has many passions, but is mainly a PhD candidate in sociology at the Lithuanian Centre of Social Sciences and an educator at the integrative children's daycare center Padėk Pritapti. In her many activities, she combines her interdisciplinary research background and activism for Roma integration in Lithuania. Together, we'll talk about Agnieszka's many passions, the challenges that Roma community in Lithuania face, and discuss how they can be addressed not only at the political level, but also in many other ways. So, Agnieszka, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you become interested in Roma communities in Lithuania?
Hi, first of all, it's great to be here and that there's more spaces to talk about Roma in Lithuania. And my way to be a part of this wider Romani studies and be interested in Roma community from scientific but also political side was very simple. I just started my studies, bachelor studies, and then I had the course on Romani history. And during that course, in Lithuanian context, I think lots of people still, when they hear Roma or more popular like racial slur, gypsies or Čigonai, there are many stereotypes which come up to your mind and how we think about those people. And when we should place them where they are from, I think it's a question mark because we don't really know. And most popular stereotype or thinking, oh, they're from Romania, probably came here. And yeah, I would also, back then when I was just 18, finish my school, I didn't know much. But at that course, just first sentence of our lecture that, Roma are the group of people whose historical roots are from India, just blowed up my mind. And then it was just an invitation for myself to realize I thought I know a lot, but in the end, I don't know nothing. And let's try to know more. And this is how I started to be interested. And this is how I got involved in many ways, in many levels, from academic just interest to political interest and just practical work with the community. So that probably would be my way, just from idea that, I shouldn't be like so sure I know everything. And this is what studies like anthropology always invites, to question not only society around you, but also yourself as a citizen, as an academic, and so on. So it started from that side.
Yes, as a fellow anthropologist, I can really attest to that as well. But can you say a few more words about the historic Roma community in Lithuania specifically?
So from nowadays historical research and all of the books and articles which are telling about Roma history, Roma community in Lithuania is a historical minority. First, Roma appeared on the nowadays territory of Lithuania around 16th century, which is official documents, or probably maybe a bit before. And from that time until now, they are part of Lithuanian multicultural landscape. Now, it's not also when we speak always Roma, we should be aware that Roma is just like this umbrella term to talk about diverse community, and that it's not homogeneous group, and everyone who we call Roma within the community would always be the same, because there are many subgroups, there are many dialects, there are some differences in some traditions or habits. So for now, there are three major Roma groups living in Lithuania. One is this historical one, and they call themselves Lietuvska Roma, which just means Lithuanian Roma. And it just shows this strong connection, territorial connection, and this regional connection. And there are two more groups. One is Latvitka Roma, or Latvian Roma, who live in the northern parts of Lithuania, like close to the border of Latvia. And they are they are just part of more broader Latvian Roma community. And then we have Kalderaš Roma. In Lithuanian, we say Kotlerai. And they are the group, actually, Kalderaš Roma are one of the biggest Roma subgroups in the world. And they came to Lithuania around, after Second World War, through Bessarabia and Russia, and then they are now here. So there are three major groups, and even inside, they are different, they have different dialects. And some dialects are so different that they can understand each other, but they would never say it's my language, or sometimes some traditions differ. So there is big diversity even of Lithuanian Roma community, which we tend to see as just one, one united homogeneous group.
Are these communities similar in terms of size, and do they live in the same areas, or is it all across Lithuania?
So our Lithuanian Roma is the biggest community, and then they live actually all around Lithuania. The major centers, like the cities or towns where they live, are Vilnius city, but also the western part, so it's Marijampolė, Vilkaviškis, then southern parts borders with Belarussia, Eišiškės, central Lithuania, Panevėžys, Troškūnai, Ukmergė. There used to be a big community in Kaunas, but now it's a bit decreased. Then this Latvian Roma, as I said before, because they inhabit mostly northern part of Lithuania next to Latvian border. So it's Šiauliai, Žagarė, everything what is there in the north. And Kalderaš group mostly living in Vilnius or Vilnius area.
In one interview, you said that Roma communities in Lithuania are left behind when it comes to issues of multiculturalism, social sensitivity, and human rights. It seems that as a society, we are moving on from that, at least formally. For example, since the 2nd of August, 2019, we commemorate the International Day of the Roma Genocide, and later we celebrate the International Romani Day. Are these just surface changes, or do they signify a bigger change that's happening?
we hope to believe that they are the part of the bigger change. Of course, these are the changes which happen in this public discourse on political level as well, because until that 2019, Roma genocide was not really a public thing. There would be few people who would know more about that Roma as part of Lithuanian society historically were also victims during Holocaust, and they were massively prosecuted and massively killed. But it was more like a community responsibility to commemorate. But then due to growing activism of Roma or pro-Roma people, like scientists, different type of NGO workers, politicians, and so on, they would just go towards the idea that it has to become also one part of the a list of commemorative dates. Then 8th of April, which is now International Roma Culture Day, also is being celebrated. So it's a result of general Roma mobilization and social movements, and it's great. It creates the space to talk about this more. But then is it just a surface of probably so-called multicultural societies? We could find still problems there, because if even European Union tries to talk more about Roma, and there are specific inclusion strategies, and they raise up this issue and they transfer recommendations to all the member states, and the member states like Lithuania has already for 20 years different Roma inclusion strategies and plans, on the everyday basis, situation is still pretty complicated, because Roma still face discrimination in school, in labor market, physical violence from the law enforcement institutions, and so on. So there is also big poverty, the literacy rates are very low, and general feeling of Roma as being the others in Lithuania. I think it's still there. There are initiatives to change, but if we even, the ones who listen to this podcast and they are from Lithuania, you can just think about yourself when you hear Roma, and would you like to live next to Roma family in your apartment building? Would you like Roma to be your colleagues at work? Would you like to have Roma children in the classroom where your children go to? Would you fancy your kids to have Roma partners, and so on? So this is probably some like self-reflection questions where we could still think, are we really able to, to kind of build this communication and contact with Roma community without prejudices, which are so widespread in the society and in our folk culture as well, because still some maybe grandmothers would scare their grandchildren that if they are not behave well, that the gypsy woman will come and steal the kid. And it's just like a kind of invitations to think.
We meet today at the Institute of International Relations and Political Science. So what does research into the history of the Roma community in Lithuania look like?
Good question, because this research into Lithuanian Roma community is not really super well developed. Of course, they have been research done, and there have been articles written, and there is great work of Aušra Simoniukštytė, Vita Kontvainė, and others, but it's not so much of academic research and evidence that we can talk and we can understand how it all was before. But in European context, more generally, there is even a new, a field which called Romani studies, and recently critical Romani studies, who try to reconsider Roma history through the perspective of power relations, through the perspective of colonialism, through the perspective of systemic discrimination. And when we look into this historical development of Roma community, we can trace that Roma, the prejudice and the general attitude towards Roma is not a recent thing, but it was historically constructed because there were many laws even before Middle Ages, then next centuries, modernization periods in European societies and so on. There would be first laws, just very simple ones, to get rid of Roma community, to treat them as scapegoats of different social crisis and even, health crisis and so on. Roma as Jews as well, because another super, unfortunately, stigmatized group until now. So then, during modernization times, there was a great idea of European societies to civilize everyone. Like European societies, especially Western European societies, were considering themselves to be on top of the social hierarchy, and everyone who is a bit different, who looks different, who acts differently, who lives in regions far away from Europe, are the ones who need to be civilized and change from primitive to modern life. And also there was a wish to do the same with Roma. And one of the historical examples is that in previous Austrian-Hungarian empire, there was a political plan to create so-called new Hungarians, which meant at that time just to take Roma and make them less Roma, which would be equal to primitive, and to make them more Hungarian, which would be then equal to more progressive. So kids would be taken out of Roma families, given to Hungarian families. Roma language would be banned in public spaces. Some traditional clothes would be not allowed in public spaces. And this was this very strict assimilation policies which would be applied. When we talk about Lithuania, so strict assimilation policies back then were not a case, but in Soviet Union, during Soviet period, Soviet Union as well was part of proposing progressive ideas for development of the society. And in 50s, there was an official decree which was called, I think I will not quote it correctly in English, but it was a decree to sedentarize wandering gypsies and integrate them in labor market or something like this. And what was the result of this? Roma families who were leading itinerary lifestyle would be stopped, and they would be moved to flats, and they had to be registered, and they had to work in factories and all of these collective Soviet farms and so on. And in a sense, it also was a part of the assimilation, because some traditional crafts which Roma would do before, crafts as different smith work, metallurgic work, or horse trades, horse healing, and so on, would not be able, due to not being able to move around and propose the services to towns and cities all across the region. We look up north and Scandinavia, and they had, I think, even more questionable and actually super horrible practices in order to kind of control Roma community, which would be forced sterilization of women, and that the idea to stop the growth of Roma community would be stop of reproduction rights, and Roma women would be just forcefully sterilized after giving birth some of the kids, so they can now have more kids. And that was practices actually till the end of last century. When we think now of discrimination, what we think of Roman prejudice, we have a really it's a long-term process which was also institutionalized, and which effects we still face and Roma community face, first of all.
Agnieszka, you are not only a researcher, but also an outspoken activist for the Roma community in public. You also work with Roma children at the multicultural center Padėk Pritapti here in Vilnius and help them finish school and integrate into society. Can you tell us more about this center and what you do there?
So this center is just together with Roma Community Center. It's just like this second home for lots of Roma children and youth, especially after demolition of Parubanka or the former Roma settlement in Kritimai. Community was really lost this ability of being together in physical space, and they are like scattered around Vilnius, but not only Vilnius, even Lithuania, or some of them moved to other countries, mostly to the Western European countries. And yeah, it's a place where they can come and first of all, they can feel okay the way they are. They don't have to pretend someone else. They don't have to try to act someone else. They can just be the way who they are, speaking language, listening traditional music, learning some traditional things, dances, but also be interested in super modern today's things. And besides that, we try to support them. Like help, probably it's not the word which we like to use, because help as well, it's like, these power relations that we are someone who know and come to help to someone who is probably less able, but we're just trying to support because everyone has the resources, but sometimes you just need extra support from the outside and you need this empowerment to realize that also you can do it. So yeah, we just simply try for Roma kids and youth to successfully finish school, and then if not school, then try other ways how to be, more confident in the society. Try to find work or develop your skills and so on. So yeah, we do lots of this, and also we do advocacy work a lot, because there are a few organizations in Lithuania who work with these issues. Us, Roma Community Center, Lithuanian Roma Community as association as well. And we see a need that the part is supporting Roma community themselves, but then we have to work with the society in a broader sense, so they are able also to receive and accept people who are a bit different. So it's schools, public institutions, local governments, and so on. So we both kind of this two sides, working with the community themselves, but also trying to change or trying to break this ongoing kind of systemic stigma of Roma from the government institutions.
Is there an opportunity to volunteer at Padėk Pritapti, and are people willing to do that?
Yes, please come if you can and you listen out to our talk. We are very much into having help from volunteers, because it's a chance for a person to come, and if you're interested in this cultural diversity or these topics, you can just have great opportunity to meet, maybe to break your own prejudice and your own stereotypes. As well, then kids have a chance to have friendships and contacts with others, probably with Lithuanians or other nationalities with whom maybe they will not develop such strong relationship in everyday life. And this volunteering is so broadly, there's so many spheres where people can volunteer, from doing just homework with kids, maths, Lithuanian language, Russian language, geography, history, and so on, playing sports, helping us during summer camps, just coming and being together, just come and talk and just sit and just, establish connection. And for young people, it's not only Roma, for everyone, when we are growing up, it's so important to develop this trustful relationship with adults, learn something from them, and just realize that, there is someone whom I can trust. There is someone who can support me. So I think it works a lot also on self-esteem of those kids we work. So there's nothing specific you have to know to become a volunteer. Just probably just a willing to give some hours in your week to spend the time with other kids and children, like kids, youth, and so on.
How does your background in anthropology come into your research and practice?
I cannot separate them. I think it all goes very well together, and it supports each other, like from both sides. Myself, like specifically, I would consider myself being a part of this engaged anthropology or engaged social sciences, which main idea is that social sciences should contribute to a social change, and that the knowledge we get, academic theoretical knowledge, that it can be kind of, really used in everyday life, and also in different advices for policymakers in the spheres of social security, education, housing, and so on. And from very personal practice, I see that when you go and try to advocate for the community in political institutions, you get much more respect when you also are a scientist, because science is an institution in our society with so much respect, and the knowledge science produce is a basis of different strategies and social political decisions. But then I couldn't do just science without this principle of reciprocity. So I'm collecting ethnographic data from the community, I do interviews, and so what? So what is directly results, or what is the usefulness of such research directly for people? So then I try support and work on daily basis with the community, and I think that's the main principle, being reciprocal, that you really pay attention to actual needs of the community. And this is how you pay back all the value of the knowledge they give to you as a researcher.
As we have already discussed, you are not only a researcher, but also a practitioner, and speak openly about certain issues the Roma community in our country face. And as you say, you are an engaged anthropologist. So are social activism and academic research compatible?
I would say totally yes, but then you can ask someone else and they would say no. So that's the diversity also of different opinions in academia. I think that they have to be compatible because there has to be really a practical usage of all the academic knowledge we produce in academia. Then activism really takes advantage of academic knowledge which is being produced, because you can support your ideas, your suggestions, and your recommendations. There are still discussions going on when you are an activist and a scientist. So how can you be objective, right? How can you not take one side? But then I can ask you, what do you think? Can social sciences be objective?
Agnieszka, thanks very much for talking to us today. And thank you for listening to this conversation. We hope you enjoyed it. And don't forget to volunteer at Padėk Pritapti. And stay tuned for upcoming episodes.
We hope you enjoyed this bonus episode of Baltic Ways, courtesy of the EUROPAST Podcast, which you can find on YouTube and Spreaker. Baltic Ways will be back soon with new episodes. Stay tuned.